Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pass the Noise podcast. I'm Elder Michael Hightower, your co-host. This is just a forum where we have just open discussions. We throw out a topic, or as of like tonight, multiple topics, and then we just kind of have a discussion about them. We welcome and encourage your involvement and your engagement and your questions or comments. I'll be putting a call-in link in the comments from time to time, so you can make your voice heard that way. Just want to throw something in the comments. That's fine as well. And I'm joined as always by Apostle T.B. Walker. How you doing tonight, Apostle?
Awesome. Good to be here.
Yep. So we have a couple of topics. The NFL is back in the news, not in a good way, as you can imagine. Last week we dealt with Deshaun Watson and that whole situation, but this week the news is on concussions. And you would think that I think it's been 7 years or so since the movie Concussion came out, where the doctor who discovered CTE sort of broke down the whole, what happens and whatnot in the NFL about to do better. You would think we wouldn't be in a place where we're still talking about protecting players and concussions and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, here we are. We're right back. We're right back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So first, I'm gonna just take a quick look at a clip that really just goes through some of the effects of a concussion, which is essentially brain damage. We'll talk more of that later, but let's look at this clip first.
We're going to move on to the other news this evening and to the autopsy tonight on former NFL player Philip Adams. That autopsy now revealing he was suffering from an unusually severe form of brain disease, CTE, when police say he killed a prominent doctor, his wife, and 4 others before taking his own life.
Adams was just 32 years old when he died, had played in nearly 80 NFL games over 6 seasons, and his family says that he struggled with injuries his entire career.
I guess what I want to say.
This is Tony Dorsett losing his words.
Think about it, what I want to say.
It happens more frequently these days. This, he says, is how he got here, evading tacklers and scoring touchdowns in the National Football League, but not without a price, and not without some serious injuries, including to his brain.
It's kind of hard for me to figure out how it works, but you can see my front lobes. One of them is not getting as much oxygen as the other.
Now he's one of more than 300 former players suing the NFL. They say the league owes them.
Wow.
I mean, it's pretty sad. I mean, I remember Tony Dorsett in his prime. I mean, we're old enough, both of us, to remember him, but he was at the top of his game, young, healthy, quick-witted, the whole 9 yards. And to see him there, just, losing his thought just on a basic thing. It's a simple question. He just can't remember stuff. So he does have, in fact, CTE. He does have permanent brain damage. I mean, the brain can't fix itself. So once it's damaged, that's it. It's damaged. And so it's really sad. I mean, and to me that you have, and I think that the clip said like over 300 former players have been diagnosed. A lot. That's a lot.
That's huge. And when you look at it, man, this is, this is not a sports show. Anybody who tunes in, you haven't like stumbled upon ESPN. This is really about like a lifestyle that we really have to kind of look at, because these are train wrecks that are happening that we enjoy. And we've enjoyed now for decades, but there's a lot of fallout behind the scenes, and it shouldn't be shocking that if you got this kind of collision, then the way that guys are as big as they are and fast as they are, I think that we're in a position as a society where we have to kind of relook at everything that we've thought of as normal and ask ourselves, not only is this really normal, but like, is this workable for us in the future? And I think that as we look at the fallout is no longer just like, man, these guys are like, when they become older men, this CTE, what's happening is that you're seeing explosions in so many areas of life that are now spilling outside of the, what is essentially the workplace.
Yeah, and you saw in the clip the young man, 32 years old,
32,
went on the killing spree and he killed himself. I think a couple of years ago, a 25-year-old guy from the Kansas City Chiefs, he killed his girlfriend and killed himself. They diagnosed him. He also had CTE.
Hernandez.
So, yeah, he had the same thing, CTE. And there's been others. There's been many. Andre Waters killed himself. Remember him with the Philadelphia Eagles. So it's a lot of these guys who are suffering, and he actually asked for help before he ended up killing himself. They showed that in the movie, if you've ever seen it, where he went to the Players Association and said, "I need help," and
Right.
it just blew him off, and then he ended up, sadly killing himself. But, the thing about a concussion is very simple. Like, your head jerks or moves, or is struck, and the brain pops against the hard skull, and there's damage. Your brain is not meant to be sloshing around up
Right.
against the hole in your head. And then the damage, if you've seen, again, if you've seen a movie, the damage is permanent. Like, neurons break and other things break, and they can't be repaired. And so that is essentially a concussion. I played sports up through high school, and so did you. And so I remember having my, seeing stars, or having my bell rung,
Right.
whatever you call it. It's a very unique experience, one that you don't really forget. But that was back in, 70s and 80s. I mean, now these guys are, you got guys 6'6", 300 pounds that can run, 4 or 5 40s. I mean, these are
Right.
wrecks every play that are happening. Even on plays where you don't see it, clearly these guys have the potential to suffer head trauma. My issue with the NFL and their so-called concussion protocol is, like, they fired the doctor who cleared Tua to go back into the game after
Right.
the concussion the week prior. That's just covering up. The simple truth is that the entire protocol is a loophole. Like, the protocol isn't meant to protect the players; it's meant to clear them so that they can go back in the game.
Right.
If you were serious about head injuries, you would say, if I think you have a head injury, you're done for the day. There's no protocol. There's no, can you answer these 5 questions? There's no, sign of light in your eyes. You're simply done for the day. But
Right.
The NFL just doesn't, next man up. The NFL doesn't care enough about these players to prevent them from doing that, from basically hurting themselves.
You're absolutely right. But you know what? I mean, there's never been a time since the days of the gladiators that, in the end of the day, the interest of the gladiator has never really meant,
Right.
as much as the interest of the owners. And we really are in the same position. It just looks different. But I mean, if you were to take a gladiatorial ring and look at a stadium, they look very similar. Now, obviously, there's no beast. We don't fight. There's no fighting to the death. But this is kind of a slow death, because the very things that you are not supposed to do to the human body, we're doing and watching and celebrating, and I think when you look at the gladiators, there was a question not just about the gladiators, but also about the society that enjoyed gladiators. I think we really are at the same place where, Tony Dorsett is in our society. We see this, but yet we see something different on Sunday. We see heroics.
Yeah. You see Tony Dorsett, 30 years ago.
Right.
Before this happened to him. And so, I watch football. And so it's a sport. I mean, I believe it's the most popular sport.
Absolutely.
Probably in the world. I mean, except maybe soccer, because soccer is like truly worldwide. But there's no sport in the Western Hemisphere that beats football. I mean, it's on 4 nights a week. It dominates even in their off season. It's a big part of our culture. And to your point, it is sort of, it's a gladiator, it's a blood sport. It is in a lot of ways, it's a blood sport. So I don't know there's no, to your earlier point, the body wasn't made for football. So there's only so much you can do in terms of safety. There's only so many ways to protect the brain in terms of technology.
Right.
I think we reach the limits of that. And then, people have to make informed decisions about whether or not they're going to play. I saw the quarterback for Cincinnati Bengals said it's just part of the game. This is like, if you sign up to play football, that this could happen any play. And he's not wrong.
He's totally right.
He's not wrong.
He's totally right. So, I mean, the question really isn't about, NFL players. I think the greater question is going to be, it's really about the kids in Pop Warner. I think the greater question is going to be, okay, we already know that guys who have a $20 million contract, who've been playing football all their lives, are going to want to play football, right? I like the sport, right? So at the end of the day, I get it. But now it's the 7-year-old and the 8-year-old that now we're leading to the path that we know generally is going to end. Well, at least we have 300 people plus that have said, hey, here's what can happen. I wonder if the idea of funneling them into that position, into this blood sport, is really the greater question that we have to kind of look at as a society. Because there's certain things we will not do. There's certain things we don't do. You know, we don't have bullfighting over here because we kind of think it's cool.
Right. Yeah.
But on the other hand,
yeah.
we've got two guys crashing into each other, and it's kind of cool to see which one knocks the other one out. Those are the hits of the week, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It is. I did want to take a look at this Tua thing because it's kind of
okay.
Big kind of speech for itself. So we'll just show this clip real quick and then we'll move on.
If you are a football fan, well, you may have seen the scary injury in an NFL game last night. The quarterback for the Miami Dolphins taken to the hospital after the play, suffering from a concussion.
CBS 2's Nick Calloway has more on why some people say he shouldn't have been on the field at all. And we want to warn you here, some people might find these images disturbing.
This is the play where Tua Tagovailoa was chased down and slammed down by a Bengals defensive lineman. The dynamic quarterback was clearly in pain, his fingers clenched, lying there for several minutes before he was taken off the field on a stretcher. But many are questioning why he was on the field to begin with. On Sunday, just 4 days earlier, against the Buffalo Bills, Tua hit his head on the ground, grabbed his face mask, shook his head before stumbling to the ground. The team called it a back injury, and he returned to the game.
Yeah, I mean,
wow.
And the funny thing is, there's nothing outrageous about those plays. Those are routine plays in football. You get tackled, you get thrown to the ground. That's the sport. That's the object, what the defense is trying to do, trying to put you on the ground. So there's nothing crazy, no penalties, no nothing. Just guy pushed him down, hit his head. The other guy swung around, hit his head. That's football.
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at the commentator said, "Listen, let me just warn you. This could be graphic." It's only because we just put the spotlight on it. But like I've seen some harder hits. Throughout my time of watching football, I've seen Terry Bradshaw. I've seen Terry take some really hard, some really tough ones. I mean, Joe Theismann with the broken leg. So I mean, this is routine. This is football. And the way the idea that those guys have been pushed back in, it's just an idea. It's really just an exposure that nothing has changed.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing has changed. Yeah. And it still begs the question: does anything need to be changed? We are, like you said, at the very limits of technology.
Sure.
Right. I mean, you're not going to make this any safer than it is right now. So. But who's going to? Are we going to stop? We're going to end football? Like, no, I don't think so.
No, I mean, and agree. And let's see, we have some comments.
Okay.
Julio May says, question: do we want to continue to place blame on the game and the coaches? At what point are the players accountable? I think personal fame and money is the personal motivator. When will the players say, "Not me"? No one is making them do it. No, good point. And in fact, the doctor who discovered CTE was clear that he didn't think Tua should play anymore. Like he said, you have suffered permanent brain damage. You shouldn't play. I think the next day Tua said, I can't wait to get back on the field. So yeah, the players need some accountability because they want to play. I mean, it's just there's something irrational and almost pathological about sports. Like when you get hurt in sports, your first question isn't, am I made for life? It's when can I play again? I mean, that's the mentality in sports, and that is the players have to take their part in that. Absolutely.
Oh, sure. I mean, the players are definitely a part of that. Which which is why I say it's an issue that you're going to fix from the professional level. Because at that stage, everybody's in. The players want to get back. The doping and everything that's been done in sports, and the idea of like numb my leg up so I don't feel it, even though it's cracked in two places. That's the doctors, that's the team, but that's also players who want, who take the numbing. So yes, I think the comments are absolutely right, but I think we've got to start it at a place where there's some guidance, which is where with the younger players and asking, okay, do we continue this? Because once they get to a certain level, it's over. It's a wrap.
True. So another comment. So Payday says, why is it so hard for the NFL to take concussion seriously? The staff just threw him out there and he could have died.
Money?
Yeah. I mean, winning games, they're sort of doing their job. I mean, I guess in an ancillary way, they have a responsibility to their players to a certain extent. But to another extent, it's like you don't have to go back out there. I mean, you might feel pressure to go back out there, but you don't have to go. Like if you say I'm hurt, you say I hurt, I can't play. Like when people are sick and can't go to work, they're like, I'm sick, I can't go to work. But in sports, they just treat it completely different. It's a psychology.
Sure, I mean, there is certainly, when you talk about the pathology, there's a certain culture there where there's honor, very, very much like a military culture. You know, I mean, there's honor in playing hurt, right? There's honor in, you know, I'm shot in one leg, but I still shot in one leg and the other arm, and I still managed to drag someone to safety, right? You get medals for those kind of things. Well, we kind of promote football in that exact same way, where players kind of shirk off any idea of self-preservation. And being just throwing themselves into the meat wagon is really what's applauded. Yeah,
absolutely. We have another comment. Sean Feder said, if the players win the lawsuit that they are pursuing, will this change things? No. The NFL will just write a big check with the money they find in the seat cushions, and they're going to be straight. I mean, they billions and now tens of billions of dollars. They won't have any problem. They settled with some of the players already. They won't have any problem writing a massive check and just moving on. But the game is the game, and again, they can only make it so safe, and that's going to be it. The players have to choose if they're going to play or not.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's in their hands.
Yeah, definitely in their hands. Let's switch gears to another topic, our next topic, and that is we were kind of continuing on with this, exactly the same thing, but we were kind of still discussing some issues around hypersexuality in our culture. You and I talked about sort of addressing some of the issues of female empowerment. I think usually when people think of female empowerment, they think about women's ability to perhaps pursue a career they couldn't before. Like before women could only be nurses, now they can be doctors.
Right.
That sort of thing. Feels they couldn't pursue. But like everything else in our culture that's changed, you now have empowerment being equal to like money and some kind of material success now represents empowerment.
Right.
And there are people who are held up as empowerment figures who you would say at first glance, I don't get it. I don't get how any woman or anybody would look at them and say, wow, they're really good. They're empowering people. And you and I talked about Cardi B, Beyonce, Kim Kardashian, Megan Thee Stallion, those kind of people who sort of are held up as symbols of women's empowerment. And I think that's questionable. And you can question that to a certain extent, but then I think you have to sort of turn around and say, well, why would someone look at them and say, I feel empowered by what they're doing? I think it's a legitimate question that we can ask.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we have a clip. And the only way I could describe it is, I think you said spicy. I mean, this is like a ghost pepper. This is, it's profanity. It's vulgar. It's explicit lyrics and sexually suggestive moves and all that kind of stuff. So just want to give folks fair warning. This is not for kids, although kids can find it. This is not for kids. This is like seriously adult. It's an adult. It's an adult entertainment in a sense. So it's about a minute and a half long, and then we're gonna watch it, and then we'll come back and we'll get into it.
I said certified free, 7 days a week, wet ass pussy, make that pull out game weak. I said certified free, 7 days a week, wet ass pussy, make that pull out game weak. Give me everything you got. Beat it up, nigga, catch a charge. beat it when I'm trying to wet it. I let him taste and I hit that back. I don't wanna spit, I wanna throw, I wanna get, I wanna choke. I want you to touch that little dirty thing that's sitting in the back of my throat. My head can be started and I need.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, you look at it and you might say like, it speaks for itself, but I don't think it does. I don't think it speaks for itself. I think it says lots and lots of things. I mean, the reality is we're watching what we were watching in some ways soft porn, and that's what these young women were doing. Stuff that you couldn't have seen past a certain time. And now this is YouTube. This is, out everywhere. And I think it speaks a lot to the views that now society has on what female empowerment really is. They're like, okay, these are the role models. And when we look even later, we'll find out that they've been lauded with awards, and not just music awards, but, awards concerning their achievements for women. And I wonder if women don't recognize that this is just bondage, where they've just, we're taking over the reins. Men used to do it. Now we have the control of the reins over ourselves.
Yeah. So as I watched this, but I'd never seen it before, obviously.
I had never seen it either.
Yeah. So as I watched this, the thing I was struck by was the reaction of the audience, especially the young women in the audience.
They knew it word for word, right?
As soon as they heard the first beats, they got hyped. When Megan came out, they got hyped. When they got to certain parts of the song, they got hyped. And so when you look at it, you're like, how could these young women look at that and think that that's empowering? So that's the question I was asking, and we'll look at some other stuff that will sort of explain some of this. But your knee-jerk reaction is that's not empowering. That's like degrading. They're debasing themselves. They're doing this. They're doing that. And as I watched the clip and watched the audience, the thing that hit me was they're not taking this seriously. Like these are, I'm looking at these. I'm saying these are college students or college graduates who are out for a night of fun, and they're like, yeah. But they're not internalizing it. They're personalizing it because they're saying my. But they're not actually taking it in the same way that somebody else might take it in. Somebody who's buying stadium concert tickets is removed from this in a way that it is interesting, because even though they see themselves through Cardi and Megan, they don't see themselves in them. That's not me. But if they can do this on stage, there's no limit to what I can do.
Now, when you say they're saying that's not me, you think that they're thinking that's not me in terms of I'm not that like they are?
Yep.
No, why do you say that?
Because
I mean, looking at them, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that they saw anything negative about what Cardi B and Megan were doing. And I'm not so sure that liberation hasn't been redefined. That in some ways, my ability to take my clothes off because I want to is now the new liberty. If you think about a person that was forced into prostitution, the freedom would be, I can leave prostitution. I suspect that the redefinition is I can prostitute myself. So by getting rid of the pimp, I feel like I'm now kind of at another stage without realizing I am a prostitute. I wonder if they look at strippers and say, that's honorable.
So I mean, and this is an observation. This is like not a whether it's right or wrong or whatever.
Right.
The thing speaks for itself. My sense is that they don't see it that way at all. They're saying, I'm never going to be a stripper. I'm never going to get surgery. These are women who are going home to finish their sign for the political rally this Saturday. These are women who are doing other things. They're doing petitions. They're signing up for rallies with tape on their mouth, Silence Equals Death Sign. I mean, these are these kinds of women. So I think they're detached from it at a certain level. They don't see themselves in it. I don't believe that they do. I think
I think there's some. Like I would agree with you that there's
pure
some.
entertainment. It's pure entertainment. They're talking about my, but they're not thinking about it the same way that somebody else who might think about being a stripper is thinking about it. I think it's completely different.
How could, but then you wouldn't have, like, I mean, when you look at the body enhancement industry.
Mm-hmm.
It's exploded since the Nicki Minaj's, right? It's exploded since you see what many of the women in the rap industry, what men have kind of wanted, you know? And I think when you look at the lyrics that are there, more female rappers are coming out, and I suspect that they recognize, okay, this is what sells. But I think when you look at what's going on with women in America, when you look at even older women, when you look at the reality TV, I think you're kind of seeing that there is a influx of people. When you look at, you know, Love and Hip Hops, how many of those women were strippers that, you know, didn't have any music out, but they got famous because they were stripping. They got famous because of their body parts. And I wonder if you look at young girls today, if they aren't mirroring that. When you look at their clothes, just check out what they're wearing every day. Aren't they looking in a lot of ways? My midriff is out. Everything is tight. You can see everything. And I'm just going to the store.
I'm not saying it's none of them. I'm not saying that nobody in that stadium is thinking that way. I'm not a betting person, but if I was betting, I bet the overwhelming majority of those women are not going to get surgery, not going to just, you know, that man. Like I said, they're on a different plane in terms of the way that they perceive this. That you can look at this and from several different places and come up with this sort of a different perspective. And we'll get back to it, but we have some callers. Let's get to the call and we can continue this. This is good. Sean Fade, welcome to Pass the Noise.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Great.
So I really was kind of connecting to what TB Walker was saying, because when I saw that video, and I had seen the actual video for that song before, because there was a lot of hype around it when it was released, I think that women, as he was saying, feel empowered in a way. It's, I'm controlling my body, but I'm also controlling my sexuality. If you listen to the words to the song, it's about a man is not telling me what to do. I'm now the one. I'm the object of affection, and I'm controlling what happens even in my bedroom. And I think Michael, you might be missing the mark on something, because while there may be a cadre of college students sitting out there in the audience, they were mouthing every single word, but they were also mouthing it in a way like, yeah, that's exactly how I feel. That's exactly what I want to be. That was the impression I got when I saw the women, you know, waving their hands in the air and like singing those words like it was an anthem. I think what we have to think about is this generation. There was a time when empowerment was about exactly what you said. It was, I am woman, and I can do whatever a man can do and better. And so it was about showing up and being more intellectually smart, showing up and showing that you can take charge, that you're not soft as a woman. What it means now is something different for this generation. So I think part of this should be a look at, let's not look at this through the lens of our generation and how we would have perceived it. But I think in order to maybe have it make a difference, we've got to understand that this generation views sexuality and how they present themselves very different. There's a liberalism around, I can dress the way I want. I can, if I've got bulges in my stomach, I'm going to have it out and let the world see it, because I am not fat shaming anyone. You go out and you look exactly the way you want to look. I mean, honestly, we see that all the time. We commented on it all the time, but people are not hiding anything now. There's a freedom in that. And what I saw in that audience, not that I'm condoning it, but what I saw was a freedom amongst those young women. It was almost like they were looking at her and they were like, yeah, thank you, because that's exactly what I want to be. Is it the wrong image? Yes. The fact, because there are going to be tons of them that are going to go get their butts enhanced, their breasts. So I think I just feel like you're missing, because you feel like there's a group, and there is a group, but it's a smaller group than you realize. And that's the scary part. That's the scary part.
No, that's fair. I mean, I think that your comments are fair, and I think this is a question of perspective. I think the great thing about this discussion is different people can see the same thing and say, I saw this. Like when I saw it, I saw something different, and you saw something different, which is fine. This is not about right or wrong, because it's about having a discussion and moving on from there. But no, your comments are fair. But that was my perception, and your perception. I think it's there's merit to it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I
And
just want to
let me say
clarify.
this,
I'm
Sean.
not condoning it. I'm not condoning that behavior. I hated seeing Megan on the stage doing what she was doing. Like that was for me, like that was a bad look. That is not what we want to be putting out there. But I think we have to look at this through the lens and then figure out how do we make a difference and change the perception of these young women by understanding what it is that's drawing them to it.
Well, I think I think one of the damages that you see, and Sean, I really appreciate what you're saying. I think you remember when gangster rap, kind of took over, and I think that it moved quickly into the suburbs. It moved quickly into colleges where boys who had never experienced any street life begin to dress like they had just come out of prison. And all of a sudden the influences begin to change, and who were role models begin to change. I suspect that what we're seeing with girls is the exact same thing. Kamala Harris won't get any play whatsoever. I think that, whoever won the Nobel Peace Prize, if it's a woman, whoever was a, poet laureate, that was a one, won't get the kind of play in general in the way that you're going to see that these women will. And they're becoming, interestingly enough, role models, because I suspect that there's a yoke that women are responding to and maybe over-responding. Well, men did this, I can do exactly what you can do. And I suspect if the idea of men, this was crazy for a man, it's not less crazy if you take over the reins. I think that's the thing. You made us, crawl around on the ground, like we were a cat. So there's no man telling me to do it now. I'm just going to crawl around on the ground like I'm a cat. I wonder if, there is a sense of empowerment that's really, this is a knee-jerk reaction that was not well thought out.
I just add, I think it's a distorted sense of empowerment. I think that's the piece that we're talking about. It is, I'm taking, now I'm running the show instead of a man dictating to me. But what is it, what's the show though? What you're showing is still, it was bad when the man was controlling it, and it's even worse now when you're in control and you cannot see that you are now turning yourself into a sex object. You're sexualizing yourself when in fact you need to focus on the other parts of you that are so much richer than that big giant booty you have. So that's just kind of what I'm thinking about that. It's disturbing and disgusting, to be honest. So thank you for allowing me to weigh in.
No problem. Thanks for calling in. Here we have some comments. Let's get to those. See, we have Clarice. I worry. I am also reflecting on the conversation last week about how men and boys know when is okay to do, touch, and say things, and when it's not. When women are exposing, saying, and doing public things like this.
I don't think it changes. A young man being trained and taught to be a gentleman, no still means no. Now obviously there's going to be, it does seem to alter the ball game to a certain extent. But, at the end of the day, no still means no. Are men going to be more enticed? I suspect that there's also men are becoming desensitized. You can't see it on a regular basis. I think that the idea that, you've got the wolf, that's sitting there, drooling, is really, really what would we expect. But I think we're going to get some other effects where men are becoming desensitized even to women sexually. When you begin to look at this, they become objects, something to be used. But the idea of I think the idea of not knowing when to touch a woman, I don't think that a woman that is being scantily clad means a green light. I think it's still the same. The principle of being a gentleman and the principle of being able to know the line based upon a woman's response, which is no, I think stays the same.
You would think so, but to your point, I think there is the desensitization that has happened and continue to happen. So we have another comment. William May says, comment, I'm back to personal accountability. This is what many parents do on a regular. This is not just a celebrity thing. It's heard at home by their own moms and dad. When are we accountable? And she says, my big concern is what are we presenting to our young girls or 12-year-olds?
Well, that's it. I mean, listen, the indictment is not just against Cardi B, and that's what I've been saying from the beginning.
Oh, no.
I think the indictment is really cultural. Those that are in charge, those that have given themselves over to it, the industry, is also plays a huge part in this. You know, you're not going to be able to get conscious women out there. You know, you're not going to be able to get women out there who are speaking about true empowerment, education. You're not going to get that. The industry recognizes that Cardi B's and Megan Thee Stallions sell. And so the industry is kind of pushing this. The question is whether we just continue to be bamboozled by the industry, because this is starting with parents playing this on the radio and recognizing, you know, what's so crazy is that they start the kids young, but Cardi's not. You know, the artists are not. The artists are putting images in front of children that and parents are just eating it up and buying it, not realizing that like that's not what they're putting in front of their kids though.
No, there's a clip online of Cardi. She's playing that song. Her daughter walks in, she turns it off. Like, no, I can't do that. So she's aware. But in a bizarre, perverted way, she's actually practicing good parenting. So
that's the crazy thing. She is really she's exemplifying like, oh no. Whereas there's another mother out there who's thinking she's doing a TikTok dance with her daughter. You know, she said, "Whoa, WAP just came on. Press play so we can do our little dance together." Where Cardi B is saying, "I'm preparing my daughter for another path." Megan Thee Stallion is going to prepare. They're going to prepare their kids for a whole nother path. That's one of the problems with rap, that there's an image that's placed in front of millions and millions of children, and yet with their children, they're saying, no, you're going to private school. I'm just going to act like I'm in the hood, and I want to make sure he stays a lobby boy, but not you. You're going to private school. I'm going to see you going to college. I'm going to be promoting the idea that you got your PhD. But with him, I'm going to promote that he's got his PhD in thugology. That I think we're back in the same space, man, where we got to look and say, what are we doing? And we might be in a position, man, where we got to save ourselves from ourselves, because that's not us.
Yeah,
that's not the best image of us. They don't represent us.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not sure we can save ourselves from ourselves, but I'm not sure. But to Willie Mae's point, I think that it's easy to blame them and then say it's them. They're writing our culture, but only because they're selling millions of records. Like, who's buying them? Like, somebody's buying them. Your daughter's buying them, and if your kids are buying them and participating and listening to it, then you're actually part of the problem that you're complaining about. And I think that's one of the things that people have to wake up and see, that until we cut them off, it's not going to be anything other than this. This is what we're going to get. And I think that one of the reasons why I was saying there's, I don't think these women, these what I call these college women, are taking it seriously, is I think there's everything in our society is sort of connected. There's straight lines between this and this and this and this and this. And there's connections all around it. We don't always necessarily see, depending on what we're sort of consuming. But those connections are real, and those connections sort of speak to where we are, not as a society, but how we treat, in this case, women's empowerment. And I have a clip. I think I'm going to play, which one first? Let's play the Cardi B one first.
This is Senator Bernie Sanders. I am with Cardi B. We're at the 10 Nail Bar in Detroit, Michigan, talking about some of the most important issues that impact you.
Oh, snap.
How you doing?
Hi, Barry. How are you?
How are you? The name's Joe.
Well, hello there, Joe.
As a matter of fact, why don't you meet my daughter, the love of my life, the life of my love. She's a fan of yours.
Hi, how are you?
This is Ash.
Hi, Biden.
That's what I was talking about. Like, Supreme Court nominees, you want to meet, you go to Capitol Hill, right? Bernie went to the nail salon.
Right.
Answer questions from Cardi B about politics, about his job. And so that's what I was talking about the connection. Like, Cardi's saying, I'm not going to you. You're going to come to me, which is the people who follow me, and you're going to answer questions from us about what you're doing. And that's sort of the connection to, you know, that sort of feeling like there's a disconnect because Bernie wants to speak to the people who follow her and
right.
vice versa. And they want to speak to each other, and they're speaking to each other through Cardi.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, you're saying that Cardi, you're thinking that Biden is trying to reach that college group, or is he trying to reach the voting group?
Both. Those women in that audience vote.
Yes, now they do vote. But you know what? I mean, again, I think that you're right. I think that they look at Cardi, but I think that you're also right that maybe some of them aren't seeing Cardi as the Cardi on stage. I suspect that they connect to this side of the Cardi. But like, if they're smart, right? These are college women. They know that there's the Cardi on stage too. So there's a way that they've been able to balance the Cardi on stage with the Cardi that says, "Hi, Biden," which was still nothing like them, and yet see her as an empowerment model.
Here's the empowerment part. Cardi doesn't have to change to get in a room with them. Same crazy nails, same crazy voice, talking crazy. She ain't changed a single thing about herself. She called the president Biden. Hey, Biden, what's up? I mean, that's what they see as empowering because she remained her same self. Bernie went to the nail salon. The United States Senator met her at the nail salon. Like, how would you tell those women Cardi is not empowered based on that? There's no way. How would you tell them that? How would you convince them?
Absolutely. But that's been the trick. You know, that's been the trick.
That's the trick for sure.
In I think all the whole music industry, that, you know, here we can have thug music, and then when it comes time for politics, you know, because people do have some sense of articulation, because they may have passion. I think that in some ways that's the blindness where people have kind of thrown the other side out the window, and now that this same person says, "Hey, man, go out to vote," that's the blindness, and I think that's the place where we're kind of bamboozled in the idea that I can forget WAP and now see Cardi as a role model to such an extent that I'll follow her and she'll become a leader of a voting bloc. That's like, I mean, the idea that, like, if I'm going to go to college campuses and get somebody to go out and, you know, rally the vote, yeah, we're going to go to a Megan Thee Stallion. Now, maybe they think they want to be Megan or not, but like they all want that money. See, the end of the day, because money is the major thing, I think they're willing to overlook all of what's going on for the money. That's why the drug wars, I mean, it's why the drug game blew up so much that people looked and said, "Hey, I'm a scientist, but I mean, I could really make more money making meth." You know, and I think that's where I think that's really where we're kind of, in a lot of ways, really seeing growth there. And you know, we see growth in the stripping industry. We see growth in, you know, the Magic Cities. Those clubs have just grown so huge, and it's become so normal and regular that they aren't strippers back in the 70s, 80s, where like, oh, you got daddy issues. These are they're looked upon now as business women. So you got P Valley, you know, that's out there on, you know, I'm not sure what whether that's Showtime or Stars or one of those. But again, it's a show about, you know, strippers, but it's really kind of based upon being a boss and business models. So in the midst of all the stripping, you've got people who are looking, saying, yeah, but I see him as a boss, like Power. I don't see him. It's not about drug dealing. It's about a guy who owns, you know, a club and who's a CEO. Even though you forget that he just moved 25 keys of coke just a moment ago. But other than that, you know, he's kind of running the bar. Yeah, I think that's that mentality.
Yeah, and when we start out talking about women's empowerment, when you use words like women's empowerment, it sounds positive. But there's a way to be empowered that is totally and utterly corrupt. And that's the part that we don't think about and we don't see. We're like, oh, women's empowerment, oh, it's positive, it's this, it's helping young girls. No, there's a way of empowerment that's like negative as well. Yes. And for sure, like, I mean, the whole strip club thing, That's where sex trafficking takes place. Like
Right.
there's going to be thousands of young girls who see Cardi and say, I'm going to try to go down Cardi's path.
Right.
When they may squeeze through, thousands of them are going to run into the ditch, and we never hear from them again.
Oh man, tens of thousands.
Whatever.
Cardi was a 1 in a million.
Right. So that's the thing, because her success can't really be replicated. That's like crazy that she's even successful.
Right.
But you can't like replicate that. But people will think that you can, and they'll give it a try, especially women who may be desperate and feel like it's my only path. I gotta do this. And like Cardi's made it like, hey, this is you can get here. Just go in there and work hard, and you can get like it's a 9 to 5, and you can go ahead and get where I am. And that's a lie.
Well, I mean, even if you could, what's not told is the human cost.
Right.
What's missing is the discussion of the what do you lose here by going this route? Again, we're just kind of that empowerment is a blinder here because it blinds you to the consequences of living that life. And what you don't see with Cardi is has this cost her? And that's what people don't look at. You look at she's
not going to tell you. She's not going to tell you what it cost her.
Right.
She's not going to say it.
You know what? But if she did, I don't think it would change it because the money is there.
Who would believe her? Who would believe her if she told her now? I mean, it's just no. It's not,
well, it probably would end up being rags to riches. People would look at it and say,
a certain level.
overcome it. Well, was I abused here at this club? Was I ever raped? People will look and say, they won't see that as a tale to turn away from. They'll look and say, and yet look at you now. You made how much money last year?
Right.
You're at this mansion. You're married to this guy who from the Migos. I mean, you are just living the life. It was worth it. That's, I mean, right?
Yeah.
The same tale from drugs, of a guy, if you end up with $25 million, what you had to do sometime, it was like you came out with $25 million. People kind of look and say, 15 years? And he came out paid? Like, man, that was worth it. It's like, did I tell you about my kids? Like when they were little when I went in and now they're in high school? Well, that isn't, but they got a father with $25 million.
Right.
That's, I think, the twisted mindset that empowerment had, the definition has changed.
It definitely changed. It's just money. Material success is empowerment. Like that's it. That's it.
That's what it is.
We have more comments. Willie May says, comment, what fellowship does Joe Biden have with Cardi B? He used her and she used him. I have to wonder about the other Joe Biden. Is he singing whores in the house behind closed doors? He said his daughter was a fan, so maybe they are. Maybe they are singing behind closed doors. But the fellowship is, I think Cardi B has like 3 times as many Twitter followers as he does. Like there's an audience that she reaches that he doesn't. And to your point, yes, he used her, she used him. Like that's like, I mean, you can't, if you didn't see it, it's hard to wrap your mind around it. Just see a United States Senator, United States President, fawning over any rapper, but let alone, her, just based on what she does. But that's where we are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, listen, the script is shifted. That's where the power is. That's where the money is. That's where the influence is in society. That's where, the culture has gone. We've kind of seen it even as we move from the rap industry in the 80s to the 90s. We begin to see, what kind of influence it had with, Coca-Cola and Pepsi. And, all those commercials were starting to eat McDonald's. Everybody was using hip hop. And so that began to be the way to reach the masses. That was the way to sell anything. So if it sells French fries and it sells Coca-Cola, it surely will also sell votes. It'll sell for Democrats and Republicans. And the Republicans don't generally get them. So you have pretty much generally.
Well, but they got Kanye. Well,
they can have Kanye. That's
so you're right. Let's see, we have more comments. Chavez says, today's culture says, I don't need anyone's permission to do, say, or be what I want, and no one can tell me differently, no matter how absent you are of talent, education, or resources. Yeah, talent, education, and resources are sort of old-fashioned stuff. All you really need now is a cell phone. I mean, you don't really need anything other than a gimmick or a stick or a willingness to sort of do whatever and a way to get to people. You don't need anything else. I mean, it's become that simple and that prevalent in our society? Absolutely true. See another comment. The Cardis and Meghan are smart. They play to our alter ego. Yeah, and Meghan's a college grad. Meghan's no dummy. She's got a college degree.
Well, I mean, to that point though, I think even what's smart has changed. In some ways, I like what Pastor was saying, because they are smart. Kanye, it's crazy as he may seem, is really, really smart, because they are really recognizing the direction that society is going in. Society wants this. They want pull you up by the bootstraps, right? They want an alternative way of getting there. And what Meghan and Cardi provide is that alternative way. We're rappers. I didn't go to college, but I mean, I'm a millionaire by 25. So there's they provide now this alternative way, which is why you see everybody raps. What do you do for a living? Well, I work down at the city, but I'm really a rapper. What do you do for a living? I'm an attorney, but like I really rap. So I mean, the reality is everybody is now recognizing like this is the way to go, and we're listening to them now. They now have the ear of society, and that's where, when they determine what empowerment is, that's the danger. That's where the danger comes.
Yeah. I'm gonna put the call link back in the chat in case somebody wants to call in. But let's look at this clip. One more clip that we have. This one is Meghan.
Chelsea follows rap music. She has ever since she was a little girl. But I kind of came to awareness of you with the Cardi B WAP.
Men, they seem so confident in what they're saying, and they don't have no problem with talking about their sexuality and how they're gonna have sex with you. So I was like, well, I could do that, and it's gonna sound fire coming from a woman.
It's great to see women be so kind of fierce.
Really excited to talk with you this afternoon. Thank you for taking the time. So Representative Waters wrote you a letter in support after your New York Times op-ed, your really wonderful New York Times op-ed.
So you will get, in Megan Thee Stallion's name, the 18th Congressional District of Texas Hero Award.
All right, let's do this. What's so fun about She-Hulk is that there are a lot of unexpected cameos.
Hulk. Blonsky. Wong.
Titania.
Megan Thee Stallion.
I will kill for you, Megan Thee Stallion.
Oh, you are way more fun than my last lawyer.
Megan's a really good actor. I'm a huge fan.
I am doing groundbreaking things, twerking in Marvel.
Listen, Megan's smart. Megan is smart. I mean, there is in the midst of that, there is some empowerment there. In the midst of this confusion, there can, in the midst of lies, there can be truth, right? It doesn't take away the fact that the lies distort everything. I think in the same way that there is a type of empowerment that really is positive, it doesn't take away from what the other things that are really there. And what's really crazy to me was to see Hillary and her daughter, and say, like, I was introduced to you through WAP, and like you're really cool.
And that's not like somebody put a gun to her head. That's their show. Like that's a show that she created for herself, and she decided to have Megan Thee Stallion on there.
That's right.
Now the reason I said earlier about the people in the audience, because they're Chelsea Clinton. Chelsea Clinton was in the audience doing that. She doesn't see herself as her. She sees herself through her. You see what I'm saying about the difference? Like, Chelsea Clinton was going to be fine. She wasn't going to be caught up in that. She's not going to get any kind of surgery. Hillary's not going to get any kind of surgery. But they're sort of in that they identify with her. They identify with her.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah, I'm cool. Like, you empowering women. Like, we're doing the same thing. Like, we're doing the same thing. Secretary of State, one of the leaders of the Clinton Global Initiative, we're the same, Megan. We're doing the same. We're on the same level. And that's really what you have them saying with these things. I mean, she's sitting down with Congresswoman Maxine Waters.
That's right.
Getting a hero award from Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. I mean,
she's on the same level.
She is on the same level. Like, they're sitting down with them isn't a co-signing. It's an acknowledgement that the influence you have is the influence I want to have. Like I want what you have in that specific area. I want that. I want to reach those millions of people who downloaded your songs. That's
right.
what I want to get to them, especially the ones who vote, which again I think is a large number of their fans vote. But it's just interesting how again with the empowerment piece, and again it can be corrupt and empowered. Megan never has to change being Megan. People accommodate her. Like she's on a show about superheroes. They don't give her any powers. They don't give her a costume. They say, no, you do what you do.
Just be Megan.
You teach the superhero how to twerk. That's what we're going to do. And it's like,
isn't that the goal though, right? Is that the goal for us? Isn't that the real societal goal that I can be myself? Like, aren't they really?
Yeah.
I said, you know, when you look at a Chelsea Clinton, I wonder if there isn't an inside of Chelsea that some of this, man, I wish I could have some of that. I wish I was sexy, you know, and so looking at that and realizing, okay, I'm not going to be it doesn't necessarily mean, man, I don't want it. And one of the reasons why I couldn't wear some of the stuff I would like to wear is because I was bound by these political restraints, bound by the fact that, you know, there was some historical restraints. But I wonder if she doesn't look at a Megan and a Cardi B and say, man, that's freedom. That's who I would really want to be. I mean, like in our movies, isn't that really when a person's alter ego gets to live through them? Isn't that really what happens? You know, when they go to that, you know, the business person, they go out and they get drunk. Don't the movie about them becoming a whole nother person? And secretly, there's a Cardi B inside of a lot of people that haven't been allowed to come out because I work for the law firm. But in truth, if I could still have 3 million followers, be able to get to Biden and still twerk, isn't that the best of all worlds? And I think, you know, I think in some ways that's what they've exposed, that they're, this doctor, you know, on TikTok, you've been wanting to twerk. Now you have permission to twerk with your scrubs on. Lawyer, right outside the courtroom, you've got permission to twerk. You obviously wanted to, but now that we've made it cool, now that TikTok is here, now that you can put it out, why are they doing it now? I think that they've always secretly wanted to, and what Megan and Cardi have done is said, I give you permission to do it because I stay at the highest echelon and you won't lose anything by living it like me.
Yeah, and the fact that they're connected to all these different people, Congress people, senators, makes it makes it okay. It makes it like it's legit.
Yes.
Like, didn't you see her on Hillary Clinton's show? Didn't you see her like being interviewed by asking Bernie Sanders about tax policy? Didn't you see that? Like she's real. This is 100% legit. So there's definitely those connections definitely make it even more difficult to convince people that their empowerment is not the kind of empowerment that you actually would want to have, because once you get it that way, you are sort of stuck there.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, we're in a downward slide.
Yeah. See, we have some more comments. Clarice says, I don't think society would have recognized her if she just showed how smart, if this was not her image.
I agree.
She would just be a regular.
I think that's part of the smarts is recognizing that there was an image that needed to be there. You know, it's no different than a person who's a good rapper and recognizes, man, if I don't get some gangster in this, even though I may not live that person is somewhat, you know, there's a certain smartness there. There's certain cunning that's there that realizes, let me put on the show.
Right.
Because in truth, you know, I suspect Cardi wanted to get out of stripping, but recognizing that there's another way, because this is soft porn. This is not different than what she was doing on the pole. This is far from what Megan was doing in college.
Right.
You know, I mean, this is really out there, but like they were willing to go out there to get to the pinnacle. And I think more and more people are willing to take that shot, whatever the shot is, to get to the next level. No matter how incendiary it is to my career, no matter how crazy it may look, if I can get my 15 minutes of fame, I might be able to commandeer more.
Well, when empowerment includes money and or fame, and given the money that they make, it's a lot of money. So I mean, way more than she was making, obviously stripping or even as a college grad. when it's that kind of money, then it seems like you've made it. Like
you made it.
Become all the obstacles. It seems like now it's all sunshine and roses. But that it's again, that's a false sense, because we know that in the end, money and fame don't make
absolutely
happiness or peace or any of those kind of things. So they're missing all those kind of things. Constantly on Twitter with this Twitter beef and this Twitter feud and this thing and that thing, people coming after them. Now at some point you become the hunted. You become prey. Like you become somebody that people want to take down, and not just at some point, not just look at you as an empowerment figure, but look at somebody like, I want to replace you. Like, you going down so I can come up. So there's all that to consider as well. Let's see more comments. Chavez says, when the biggest burger chains found out people had a huge appetite for chicken, they put it on the menu. They proved that this is not only an appetite, but they are returning for seconds, thirds, and making reservations for next week.
That's true.
Said it's marketable. No, absolutely. I mean, in the initial clip, it's a stadium, and it's sold out.
Packed.
It's packed. So, we're talking about tens of millions of dollars for one night's work, but however long they did their thing. That is the lure, if you will. And all they really have to do is just be who they are. I mean, they're just I'm just doing what I was doing when I was a stripper. What's the difference? Other than there's 100,000 people here, and I'm making just $5 million for the night. I mean, those are the kind of things that sort of suck them in. And then when kids see that, then they get sucked in. They're like, that's all I got to do, and I can like, I'll be set for life. I mean, the whole I'll be set for life thing is sort of that's another trap in and of itself. But it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, when you think about what they're doing, they also were able to tap in to, because there's plenty of artists out there. There are a lot of people who are trying to get to where they are. They were able to tap in, and the industry also picked them. There's a part of that that is that's another story, but that's a part of that as well, that the industry had already tapped into what was selling, where women were, what men were looking at, and they tapped in to these very same elements. They were able to tap in what people were already hungry for.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a hunger for not just, the show, but the music. I think that, let me just say, Cardi has won 162 music awards, individual music awards. Megan was the 2021 Glamour Woman of the Year. Cardi was the Billboard Woman of the Year. So they're not just getting awards within, they're everywhere. They're absolutely positively everywhere. So, that's a commentary on society, and it is what it is. So we're actually over time. That's such a thing. But if you have any closing thoughts, you can go ahead and knock them out, and we can close it up.
No. Go. You go ahead and close.
No, that was it. Yeah, I'm good. I think this is
really. I think it's an important discussion. That we have to have, because again, it is. I don't know if we can save ourselves from ourselves, but it's that we really need to know who we are really having to work against, and it's really ourselves as a culture. This is coming from within, not from without. This is an outside attack. This is really an implosion that's happening not only in America, but it's happening worldwide. And that's, this is a worldwide situation where, the movements of the mind of young people is not happening in a vacuum. It's not happening just in our local neighborhoods. But man, there's a huge movement with men and with women to really change the very nature and the fabric of our world. And I think that this is important for us to be able to check it out and see, and really take accountability to be able to look at ourselves and be able to see what do we need to watch what our children are watching, and do we need to watch what we're watching?
Yes and yes.
Yes.
Yes and yes. Yes, and well said. Well said. Great conversation. Thanks for everyone who made comments or called in. Appreciate it. Just thought this was good. This was good. So listen, we'll be back next week. Share this, like this, go to our Facebook and YouTube pages and subscribe and share all the kind of good stuff. So we appreciate that. We appreciate you being with us, and hopefully we will see you again next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Good night, and God bless.
Pass the noise. Good night.